inside this audio and visual wonderland of mine, and welcome to the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. I'm your host, Derrick. As you can see, we just celebrate our 250th birthday, got the USA kind of soccer hoodie on. So hope you enjoyed your 4th of July. Um, Nobody's fingers got blown off or anything like that at my cousin's house in Soledad. But we had a lot of fun. Hopefully, you guys stayed safe out there and enjoyed the weather. I know there's a heat wave going in the Midwest and the East Coast. So I just hope that you guys are, making sure you do the right things to stay hydrated out there. And I know in Europe too, there's been a massive heat wave. So to all of our viewers and listeners in Europe, yeah, just stay hydrated or go to the beach. I know you guys got plenty of lakes and beaches, that you can dip yourselves or purify yourselves in. So hopefully you did that. But before we get into our special guest, who is Joe Stiglich, Joe is our special guest for Chapter 53, and I've known Joe for about 6, 7 years. He's a former beat writer for the Oakland Athletics, covered the team with the Bay Area News Group, Contra Costa Times, most notably, and also covered the team with NBC Sports California. So we're going to talk about, how he's helped me out along my career, but also what he's been up to now. That includes becoming a teacher. That's right, a history teacher at Clayton Valley Charter High School. So I'm looking forward to chatting up with him and catching up, and hope you guys enjoy the chat. But I will not be a real show if we didn't congratulate the newlyweds that had their wedding at Madison Square Garden. That is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. That was the most talked about wedding of all time. I think excluding any royal weddings with the royal family in England. But congratulations to Taylor and Travis. I think there's some photos that leaked of how the wedding was and people who got invited did get invited. I hope it was the wedding that they dreamt of. I hope it was the wedding they enjoyed and that they've planned to a T. You know, um, like I said, I've said on this show where Taylor Swift's most talented, one of the most creative, one of the biggest creative forces that our world's ever seen. Obviously, we know what Travis has done on the football field with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just wish the paparazzi would just leave them cats alone. They're just trying to enjoy their relationship and loving one another, but I think it's time to just leave them alone, let them live in peace. Um, you know, but I'm glad they had the wedding that they wanted to. Shout out to them and, kind of just taking over the world by, who's going to the wedding. Adam Sandler was the officiant, which was pretty gnarly to have the Sandman be your officiant, but that's a wedding that will live for the ages. So congratulations to them. Obviously, not going to talk about the As the Giants. They're in total free fall, and we'll talk more baseball later on in the podcast with Joe. But as you can see, still wearing this sweatshirt. Disappointing effort from the United States men's soccer team, who got eliminated by Belgium earlier this week. In Belgium, in return, got eliminated by Spain. They lost 4-1 in Seattle, which was their first competitive loss in Seattle, I believe in like 8 matches. It's a disappointing effort, you know. And I didn't really react to it right away because I wanted to let the tea leaves settle because there's just so many couch potato, jabroni, soccer experts out there that think they know what the heck they're talking about. Barstool Sports. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to kind of speak on what happened with USA Soccer, or US men's soccer, excuse me, where the national team is going, what needs to improve. So I think it's inexcusable that that team showed up flat. And it's disappointing that the U.S. soccer team showed up, not wanting to play, if that makes sense. They look scared. They look timid. They look like they didn't want to be there. They treated it like a friendly. This is a World Cup in your backyard. Who knows when the next time you're going to get this opportunity? I think, to me, I think my goal was to, eventually my goal was to, okay, let's get past the round of 16 with the expanded format. And I knew Belgium was going to be a tough game, and obviously we had the Flo Balogun red card suspension that got lifted, which I think just opened up a can of worms that didn't need to be opened up, and everything that our president touches, as you can tell, does not work. It turns to shit. So it sucks, that the team, the U.S. men's team just had a bad night at the office at the wrong time. I think this was destined to be kind of, let's get soccer as a popular sport, and soccer is getting to be a popular sport in America. That's just no question. I don't know why we hinge on a national team being successful when the sport's already continuing to grow, both in boys and girls. Where I think what the issue is that there's just no guys that want to assume being the leader of that team. You know what I'm saying? There's just no like leaders that are stepping up. Um, and we call this, this era of U.S. men's national soccer team the golden generation, the golden generation, golden generation this, golden generation that. You can't call yourself a golden generation if you haven't won any major tournaments outside of CONCACAF. Um, so yeah, just a really embarrassing effort in Seattle. I think stars were born though overall with Flo Balogun, who played his heart out. I mean, had what, 4 goals this entire tournament and became a star instantly. Lee Tillman, the free kick wizard, um, who put the game away at Levi's against Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also scored the lone goal against Belgium. And then Alex Freeman as well. Dude just plays with his heart on his shoulder, and he's going to be a future force. And then I like to throw in Sebastian Berhalter too. I think Sebastian Berhalter kind of surprised me. Obviously, um, you have the kind of the negative perception of him just because of what his dad, who his dad was on the national team and then coached at last year's or the last World Cup in 2022 in Qatar, and we all know how that went down. But yeah, just disappointing efforts, disappointing efforts from Christian Pulisic, who I'm a Pulisic fan, but I don't think he's Captain America, and I don't think he's I think he feels comfortable being the second or third option on team. We've seen what he's done at Chelsea and AC and AC Milan, but to have no goals this calendar year between Milan and here in the national team, not a good look, man. And obviously, we know what happened. He looked phenomenal against Paraguay. With 2 assists in 45 minutes, then got hurt, and then just looked like he was timid on most passes, just not assertive. Um, and granted, you're playing against bigger dudes that that Belgium had in the back line, but you know, Belgium played like their B team and still beat us. They sat Sadio Mane, Kevin De Bruyne. Um, so yeah, Pulisic, I think he's at a crossroads. I think he's got to just look himself in the mirror and realize, the opportunity that slipped away. And I think just reassess, who do you want to be as a player? How do you want to be remembered as a player? You know, I think the toughest part is just not playing the Gold Cup. I think really set him back and, resting. Um, because this was all built up to this moment, going back from 2022 and, obviously qualifying for the World Cup again, which was huge. And then, having another kind of just okay run, at Qatar. This was supposed to be the run that, okay, this is a catapult the team. And obviously the viewership showed that, I think it was 46 million people watched the U.S. men's soccer team against Belgium in the round of 16. Another guy I'm disappointed with too, and not with fault of his own, Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna was supposed to be the wonder kid, was supposed to be the next, savior, play alongside Pulisic. And for the second straight World Cup, he's been MIA. Scored that unbelievable, you know, bend it like Beckham goal against Paraguay to close out the show in Inglewood, and then just disappeared. And I know Gio's still young, but at some point you got to ascend to the throne. You got to take the reins and start on this team. And I don't know, I know he's had some injury issues during his club career over the past couple of years, but the Wonder Kid can't be sitting on the bench handing Gatorade bottles. The Wonder Kid has to be on the field, and we'll see how that will unfold with him. And I think these next couple of years going into the 2030 World Cup, if he gets selected, are pivotal for him as well. And then just the entire, the goalkeeping was awful between Matt Freese and Matt Turner. They will probably not see a national team uniform. Matt Freese was the all-time blunder, one of the worst blunders I've seen at a World Cup. That really, when the U.S. was starting to build momentum, and then just absolutely gift wrapped it a third goal by coming out of the net, coming out of the box too early, trying to play it, and then trying to look like he wanted to draw a foul but didn't, and then obviously, you saw what happened with that third Belgian goal. So just a really embarrassing effort. What I think the U.S. Soccer Federation can do better is scout. Listen, we live in a soccer. I live in a soccer crazy city in Salinas, California, and nobody, there's no U.S. scouts coming to scout the team. So I think your scouting needs to get better. I think you need to, reduce the fees when it comes to travel ball because I've read on X I've had families spend like, well, I don't know, $4,000, $5,000 on travel teams, which is absurd. And obviously you're supposed to get recruited out of these travel teams and yet nothing happens. So I think a lot of us, we want to see the travel teams get reduced so you get better quality players, get to go to youth academies and get to go to the national team training camps. So I think that needs to happen. Um, and I don't know if MLS is at fault here, but at some point, probably in our lifetime, would love to see a pro reg system in place. And I know the USL is doing it, but at some point, you got to combine both leagues. There's not one, unified league where you can have 20, I would say 20 teams in MLS, and then whoever wins the USL gets to go to the MLS. That's how it should be. And I think, and obviously the benefit is that they're switching to a European soccer schedule. So, MLS will start in the fall, end in the summer, which they will start to do that within the next few years. But yeah, just a bitter pill to swallow on what should have been a glorious moment, an opportunity for this U.S. men's national team. The good news is we got the Women's World Cup next year, and I know the women are trying to get back to the throne as trying to return to the World Cup finals, which they haven't been to since 2019. So I'm looking forward to seeing the women go out and try and bring home another Women's World Cup. Let's not forget we have a dynasty on that side of things, but the men's. I think there's a road to becoming a contender. It's a long road, but I think they have to do, the U.S. Soccer Federation has to do some inward um, kind of inspecting and first see if they want to keep Mauricio Pochettino, who I thought did an okay job of rallying the guys together. But obviously, we saw what happened in big moments. Just, the team absolutely, you know, shit the bed in the round of 16. And who knows? Pep Guardiola's still out there. Jurgen Klopp still out there in case, Poach wants to go back to club team. But we'll see what happens. But coming up next, that's enough soccer talk for me. I could go on and on and on and on. But coming up next, we have my guest, Joe Stiglich on the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. Alrighty, my friends, welcome back to the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. Chapter 53 is pretty special. A couple of chapters ago, I interviewed one of my professors, the legend Mark Purdy. I'm going to have another legend on the show today. So I met this gentleman during my undergrad career at San Jose State, and he spoke in my journalism, I think 148 class, and loved enjoying what reading some of his stuff as a kid, being an Oakland Athletics fan. I don't say Timu Athletics. I always say Oakland Athletics when I talk about legends like this one right here. But I've known him for about 6 years now. He's helped me along the way get to where I'm at. So it's always an honor to talk to one of my mentors and a professor of mine. Technically, we'll get into that a little bit later. But he used to cover the Oakland A's for the Bay Area News Group, NBC Sports California. Now he's a teacher, teaching our, as Mark Purdy would say, our future journalism leaders of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Antioch High School, UC Berkeley, from Antioch, California, now in Walnut Creek. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Stiglich.
How you
Hey!
doing, Derrick? Wow, you covered a lot there. You covered it right there, man. Thanks so much for having me on. It's great to see you again. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you get to see me in my post graduate mode of hosting this show.
Doing well.
Yeah, I appreciate you just always connecting with me, and it's great to reconnect. So, part of our tradition here on the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast is we always start off with icebreaker questions. These are really easy, randomized, so Joe has not seen them. So, we both answer these. So, you ready, Joe?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. A ballpark you would like to go to that is still on your bucket list.
A ballpark I'd like to go to that is still on my bucket list is
Yeah.
going to be is Pittsburgh Pirates still known as PNC Park?
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
PNC, definitely that one. That's one of the few major league cities I've not been to.
Okay.
I would love to see that ballpark. I'd love to still get there. Didn't get there in my time covering the A's. I would go with that one for sure in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I know that's pretty underrated. Luckily, their team's doing a little better with Paul Skeens leading that
Yeah.
resurgence.
Yeah.
Um, I would say Wrigley Field. I went to Fenway last year, went to Yankee Stadium like 10 years ago. I mean, I wish it was old Yankee Stadium, but went to the new one.
Yeah.
Obviously R5 here. So yeah, I would say Wrigley just because it's still the last cathedral left standing.
I'd imagine if you liked Fenway, whatever it was you liked about Fenway, you'll probably like the same thing about Wrigley too. It's like, yeah, I think you'll agree with me. So you've been to Fenway?
I have, yeah.
Was it not like stepping back into a baseball time machine, just being in there? It was really cool. Both those parks I think are fantastic. I mean, it's really like stepping back into time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always use the phrase goosebumps, and my parents get annoyed when I, feel that when I'm watching like hype videos, during sports broadcasts like
Right.
you and I do. Um, but yeah, I think just feeling kind of the ghost of Babe Ruth, obviously Carl Yastrzemski, and then even the seating. But I know you were in the press box, but you probably been on the field at Fenway. But the seating was real funky because it would be like a row of four, and then you have a rail like right in the middle and
Yeah.
then another row for it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think they could, they didn't configure to the weight sizes of today's generation.
Right.
A lot of the Boston fans, though, because it was against the A's, and they offered me condolences, and I'm like, oh, thank you, appreciate that. So we didn't get heckled too much
Yeah.
out there in Boston.
Fenway's a special place, and
It
it's
is,
packed right in that neighborhood too. So you turn a corner, all of a sudden, boom, there's a ballpark right there, right? It's
yeah,
kind of tucked away there, this little treasure, and you can't see it really until you turn a corner and you're right there. No, fantastic place. I'm glad you got there.
I know, yeah. Does ketchup belong on a hot dog?
Ketchup, I'm okay with ketchup on a hot dog. I don't personally put ketchup on a hot dog, but I'm okay with it. I go mustard and relish on a hot dog, and that's it for me.
Okay, I'm ketchup and mustard only. I can't do relish for
Oh, you
some
put
reason.
both. You put
I
ketchup
put
and
both.
mustard on there? That
Yeah.
seems like a little bit of a clash to me, but you like both.
I like both. I know I'll
All
get
right.
crucified in the Midwest and the East Coast, but yeah, I do both.
Okay.
I think I've always done that. Costco hot dog, Wiener Schnitzel, ballpark
Oh,
hot dog. Yeah, I've
oh yeah,
always done that.
absolutely. Yeah, you go to a ballpark, you got to have a hot dog.
Yeah. If you had 25 hours a day in a day, how would you spend your extra time?
How would I spend my extra time? I'd spend it outdoors doing something, getting some kind of exercise. Now, because I'm on my summer vacation from teaching, I'm getting out, doing some hiking a little bit, doing some, just getting out and getting some more cardio. I would definitely just be outside in nature more, doing something like that, enjoying the outdoors more, especially this time of year when we have so much daylight and everything. So trying to do it now, but I would definitely use that hour to do a little bit more of that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Uh, I would go along the lines of you because I believe, going outdoors kind of helps your mental health a little bit,
Yeah.
especially when you're just zoning out, listening to music. Um, but make it a 2 hour lunch break for any like 8 to 5 job. 2 hour lunch
Yes.
break. Yeah.
Oh, I like that too. I really like that too. I could have one of those hot dogs maybe. Maybe I'd have to try putting ketchup
Well,
and mustard on it too during that extra hour.
just don't eat like 67 that Joey Chestnut ate over the weekend
I know.
in Cody.
I don't know how he did. I can't even watch that stuff. I mean, I can watch the highlights, but I'm like, I don't know. I can't comprehend how somebody does that.
Yeah, my mom, you could join my mom on the in that crowd there. She can't
Yeah.
watch it, but I try to do a play by play like, oh yeah, Chestnut's at like 50 or 4 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Competitive eating, right?
Yeah, competitive eating.
Competitive eating. Wow.
What is one baseball rule change you would like to see?
One baseball rule change I would like to see. I don't know if this counts. I'm not a big ABS fan. I'm not
Really?
a big
Okay.
ABS fan so far. I mean, I like the fact that it's fast, but I just don't think it was necessary. I don't think we needed that. I don't think balls and strikes are being missed so much that it was like um, an absolute crime. It was happening. I didn't see it as a huge issue. And if so, if
Right.
there's some controversy around missed balls and strikes, so be it. Baseball, that's what baseball is. It's the human element. I like the manager umpire arguments. Um, if there's the occasional missed call by an umpire, that's part of the game too. I just didn't see glaring. Um, I know in the WBC, I'm trying to think of the game. There's a glaring called strike, I think, to end one of the games, right?
Hmm.
And I think that I don't know if that I think ABS is already the wheels are already in motion for that. But even that call, I'm like, that was a great pitcher's pitch. I didn't mind that pitch being called a strike, and I didn't think it was a tragedy that got called a strike. So um, even though ABS is being executed well, it's not taking a whole lot of time because games are still being played pretty quickly.
Right.
I just don't think we needed it. I don't think we needed the tap on the helmet all the time.
Yeah.
That's me.
Uh I like ABS is okay, but it's just hard when you to keep track of like the challenges, especially going to extra innings. Like you automatically get one.
Yeah.
To me, it should just be two and out.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of stumped myself with this question. I would say roster size wise, I would go to the 30 at least because then you can have like 15 pitchers and because to me you shouldn't have a position player pitching
Right.
in
I
like a
know.
15 to
Yeah.
3 blowout. So I would love to see the roster size get expanded plus more jobs in the big leagues, and hopefully more big league paychecks there.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like
Which
that.
song can you listen to all day?
Which song can I listen to all day? Years ago, I would have said "Lights" by Journey, but then
Okay.
started getting played at every single Giants game over and over, and I feel like it gets overplayed now. So, which song can I listen to every day or over and over? I'm just going to pick one of my favorite songs, "Pride in the Name of Love" by U2. I
Love
love
it.
the band U2. I love that song. I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, U2 is one of my favorites. Beautiful Day is probably 1B on
Uh,
YouTube. It's a good
yeah,
just start the day.
yeah.
Um, my favorite like a walk underrated walk-up song. It's turned into one of my favorite songs. Mike Yastrzemski used it as his. It's When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin. Don't know
Oh
why. I
yeah,
just love
yeah.
that. Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, just
Got the heavy drums going at the beginning,
yeah, Heavy
right?
Drunk
Yeah, yeah.
going by John Bonham. I don't know why. That's just the underrated an underrated just like walk-up
Yeah.
song for some reason.
Nice.
All right, so we're gonna get into the main questions. Easiest one, describe your upbringing, Joe.
Well, upbringing. So I was born in the town of Antioch, which was a pretty small town when I was growing up. It's at least doubled in population now. Antioch's got over like 100,000 people in it. But growing up, I was the youngest of four. Youngest of four, maybe still treated like the baby at times in my family. Um, but grew up with a lot of sports. Not surprisingly, a lot of sports. I had two older brothers that played a lot of sports. I think their taste in music rubbed off on me because I like old school 70s and 80s classic rock stuff. Um, Great parents, great upbringing, but I mean, kind of keep it focused on kind of the overall theme, probably of a lot of your podcasts, is just love of sports. My dad was taking me to sporting events. Well, first of all, we were watching on TV and he was explaining just a lot of things, a lot of rules and why certain positions are called this and what certain positions do and all that. And then going to my first game, the Oakland Coliseum was the first place that I ever went to see a professional
Hmm.
sporting event of any kind. So
Yeah.
a lot of games going to the Oakland Coliseum. Um, just a tight knit family. Holidays are a big thing for us. Lake Tahoe was always a favorite vacation spot, both in the winter for the snow, and we'd go to a cabin for a week in the summer too. So Lake Tahoe is always got a special place in my heart. Yeah, just I had a really I lucked out with the kind of upbringing I had, I feel like for sure. Two great parents that I think had a great influence on all of us, so for sure.
Yeah, my dad rubbed off the classic rock music on me, so you're not
Yeah,
alone there. And I'm sure
yeah,
he'll love that answer too,
yeah.
by you saying that. What made you want to work at sports journalism? Because I know you talked about your dad as well showing you the games on TV, but was it just going to the games in the atmosphere or?
I don't know what age, but I mean, I remember from the time I was in elementary school, I loved spreading out the sports section when hard copy newspapers are still a big thing, right? It got delivered
Right.
every morning, spreading it out on my kitchen table and reading as much as I could of it while eating breakfast before I went to school. I was doing that. I think I was in elementary school when I was doing that. So when I first understood the concept of like a sports writer, wow, you watch sports and you can write about it. Um, that's kind of what got me hooked right there was that the idea that that was possible to make money to have a career doing that. And I think at some point, um, maybe I thought about being a teacher and a coach, and I eventually, I mean, I'm teaching now, so I eventually did that. But no, from early on, it was all about sports writing and journalism. Once I got this idea what the concept of journalism was about,
Hmm.
um, it was that. But from an early, the seed kind of got planted early for sure. That it was, but it was definitely my love of sports that drove my love of wanting to be a writer and wanting to get into journalism for sure. But it was from a pretty young age, and I can still remember some of the writers that I grew up reading. Dave Newhouse was one of them with the Oakland Tribune. Sadly, we just lost him a few months
Yeah.
ago, along with Carl Stewart from and Carl and I. Worked side by side a little bit for the Bay Area News Group, and Dave Newhouse. I never worked too closely with him side by side, but grew up reading him. So yeah, I feel lucky that I was able, for a long time, I was able to have the exact career that kind of caught my eye as a real little kid.
That's always the first section I go to still to this day when I was 8.
Yeah.
Because I know, Joan, you know my story too with me being on the autism spectrum, but kind of how I gained my speech ability back after I had multiple seizures when I was younger was reading the sports page. Literally go to do Tim Kawakami, obviously Mark Purdy, the legend.
Yeah.
I don't have to say legend because he's going to get really annoyed if I say that a lot. And then body pull, and then obviously your work too. So yeah, that's the only section that I read. We still get the Mercury News to our house
Yeah.
to this day. Do you have any favorite like memories working with Carl?
Favorite memories working with Carl were just he was always talking about the game. He was always, if you were sitting next to him in the press box or even just like at a social function, he was always talking about what a great story would be or what the next great story could be. If he was
Mhm.
watching something on TV with them, he would always be talking about it, just kind of talking about, he would almost be thinking of like what the next great story idea was. That's the way he was. He had a really good laugh. He got a good kick out of just um, a lot of the little things, but he was just always, he was a true journalist. He
Mm.
thought like that. He talked like that. And he was the kind of guy you kind of learned a lot just from having conversations with him. That's something I could say about. I was lucky enough when all through when I first, especially when I was a young sports writer breaking in, I was able to spend a lot of time just having conversations with journalists who were older than me and had been doing it for a while. And you learn so much just from having those conversations. Carl would have been one of those guys for sure.
Yeah. I know you had a special relationship with your dad, and I know unfortunately your dad passed away a few years
Yeah.
ago. Obviously,
Yeah.
my condolences to you and your family.
Thanks.
What is the best advice that he's given you?
Have confidence in yourself. Have confidence in yourself, right? If you don't have confidence in yourself, you don't not confident that you can get a certain job done, or just have that confidence and self-belief in yourself, right? Because I think we're all kind of our biggest, toughest critics, our own toughest critics a lot of times, and you can get that negative thoughts, negative talk going on in your head sometime, but you got to stay positive and just have an idea, have confidence in yourself that you can get something done, right? And if you show that kind of confidence, other people will have confidence in you as well. That's among the many, many things he taught me, many life lessons. That would be one of them for sure. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And did you play any sports at Antioch High School?
I played back when people were multi-sport athletes at young ages still. I played, yeah, I played football, basketball, and baseball. Baseball was a sport I played the longest growing up
Mhm.
from the time I was like 8 years old, playing Little League. And then it was Babe Ruth. And a lot of these leagues in some cities aren't even around anymore. I know now it's all travel ball now, right? But
Right.
no, I grew up playing baseball, Started playing basketball in middle school, and started playing football just for 3 years, eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, playing that. So for a while, I was playing once football, taking a weekend off, starting basketball, and taking another weekend off playing baseball like that. But it's different now, right? It's different. Seems like kids growing up play one sport. I wasn't a standout, a superstar in anyone, I wouldn't say, but definitely played all three of those and stayed busy doing it, had fun doing it.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
did you play against your brothers at all or with your brothers? Because I know there was.
No, and they were quite a bit older than me. So
Okay.
I grew up going to a lot of their games, especially their Friday night football games, which was a big
Okay.
influence on me too. Just going there, watching them. There's nothing I liked doing more when I was a little guy. And it was Friday night during football season. I knew I was going to Antioch High to watch one of my brothers play. Um, so looked up to both of them doing that. My next older brother, Frank, he was a wrestler for a while and he would like to practice on me a lot. So if you want to say I got to compete against him, I don't know how competitive it was, but he used to tie me in a pretzel practice. He'd be like, "Come here, I got to practice a wrestling move here." So we practiced wrestling, whether I was a willing participant or not, I guess.
Now, would those fights take place in the makeshift ring called your guys' bedroom or in the living room or just anywhere or in the backyard?
Usually in the living room somewhere where there's plenty of carpet space, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what a time to be alive when you're
Right.
when you're
Yeah.
younger.
Right.
So I know you're an East Bay boy, born and raised, and you decided after Antioch High School to go to UC Berkeley. Was it a
Yeah.
goal just to stay in that region? Did you ever thought of maybe going to a school out of state or?
I first of all, I went to Diablo Valley College, so I went to
Okay.
junior college first for 2 years and transferred to Berkeley. I had it in mind. I'm going to go to the best school possible and try to write for their school paper. I got some advice. My dad's a family friend gave us some advice. You know what? Don't worry so much about what journalism school you go to. Get into the best school you can and just start writing for their paper if you can and get experience that way. So I was all about if I was going to get into Cal, that's where I was going for sure. So it wasn't so much I guess staying close to home was kind of a bonus. I kind of like the idea of staying close to home, but Cal's where I was lucky enough to get into Cal. Maybe it was a little bit easier back then as a junior college transfer. And it's so hard now to get into UC Berkeley. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to
Yeah.
get in.
Yeah.
Applied to UCLA too. Didn't get into that because they were impacted. Their mass communications program down there was impacted. That was a really tough school to get into down there. I'm glad I'm a Cal Bear anyway. I get to root against the Bruins now. So no, yeah, 2.5 years at Cal after DVC. Um, I just loved it. Love everything about that campus still. I still get nostalgic walking across the campus.
Yeah, I went to my I actually made it a mission to go to all three like Bay Area college football games, obviously San Jose State. That team, I'm not going to say the team or the school in Palo Alto.
You
I'm
could
not
say it if you got to. I'm not going to say it, but you can if you want.
okay, Stanford. I had to whisper it low because we might have a lot of Cal alumni watching this, so Stanford.
Yeah.
And then going to Memorial Stadium, one of the best environments in college football, in my opinion, is Memorial Stadium. I miss the old Pac-10 though. I know you grew up covering that during your undergrad career. Um, did you have any stories during your undergrad career at the Daily Californian that gave you confidence, going heading as a professional?
Right for the Daily Cal. First of all, it was such a great experience. I mean, at that time, I didn't know when I was looking to what college to go to, I didn't know that some colleges had literally daily newspapers like the Spartan Daily at San Jose
Mhm.
State, right? And so the Daily Californian at Cal, it was 5 days a week. It was so awesome just getting to do that. And because I was fortunate enough to cover football and men's basketball eventually. Again, I was alongside a lot of those beat writers and just got a couple of compliments one time. I think it was Ron Bergman of the San Jose Mercury News at that time. Bergie he was an old time writer by the time I was working alongside of him, but he paid me and another Daily Cal writer I was working alongside. He just said to other writers, other professional writers around us, he said, "I got to read the Daily Cal because these guys are so good." And that was just cool. I mean, he was complimenting me and my other Daily Cal mates at the same time, but just I don't know to get that kind of backing from somebody already professionally in the field was really cool. But it gave me confidence just kind of being around them and listening to how they went about the job and especially how they ask questions. How they ask questions. A lot of time back then, Cal football once a week would have um, a conference call with the opposing team's head coach. Maybe they still do it now, but you got to be in the same room with all the writers. We were all talking out loud on this speakerphone, right? So the other coach in whatever town they in could hear us. and just listening to the way the questions were asked and the way they worded questions, these more veteran writers,
Mhm.
just tried to soak it up like a sponge, and it gave me confidence like that being around them and like I said, getting that kind of boosted confidence with that kind of compliment was really cool.
Because I actually did my research. So I know you were kind of when you arrived to Cal after being at Diablo Valley College. I know Jason Kidd graduated, I believe, the year before, or went to the NBA
He
the year before
kid
that you
was
got there.
Yeah, he graduated high school a year before me,
Okay.
and he was only at Cal 2 years, I believe. So he was already out by the time I got there.
Okay.
The
And the same.
studs when I was there in football, Tony Gonzalez was there. Steve Mariucci was the head coach for 1 year, and then the 49ers poached him from Cal after 1 year. The team went 6-6, and Cal leave it to Cal to lose their head coach after
Yeah.
one 6-6 season to an NFL team, right? Who heard of that kind of thing at that time? That was almost a Tony Vitello move years ahead of time. Not exactly the same because Mooch had already coached as an assistant in the NFL, but
Right.
still pretty unprecedented at that time. So that was cool. The basketball team, Sharif Abdul Rahim was there.
Hmm.
Pac-10 Player of the Year. Ed Gray was the Pac-10 Player of the Year, I believe, the following year. There were some really good athletes at that time at Cal. There's a lot of stuff to cover. The basketball team went to the Sweet 16. That was Ben Braun's first year coaching. I'm probably throwing out some names that maybe some of your viewers and listeners aren't gonna know maybe, but you feel kind of old. But a lot of them will probably know these names. Cal was, I mean, they weren't going to the Rose Bowl. Even back then, they weren't
Yeah.
winning conference basketball championships at that time, but there was always a story going on. And there was always great athletes to watch and follow and cover and cheer for.
And that was gonna be my next question, Joe, is that who are some of the, kind of the notable athletes that you covered, or some of the favorite athletes and coaches that you got to interview, and
Yeah.
just built kind of that relationship with?
Yeah. Tony Gonzalez he was already a stud football player, right? A tight end on the football team, but then he went and played basketball after
Yeah.
football season was over. And even back in the mid 90s, that was not done very much at all, especially a football basketball combo like that. It seems like more guys maybe would have done football, baseball. There weren't many guys doing football and basketball. And Tony would, I tell you what, he'd come out for the basketball team, and it was rough the first few games. It took a while for him to get his basketball feet under him and his skills back, but his last year at Cal, Ed Gray was the Pac-10 Basketball Player of the Year. He got injured at the end of the regular season. Cal goes on a March Madness run to the Sweet 16, and Tony Gonzalez was kind of their go-to offensive player by the end of that season. So it was pretty. I got to write a column on him for the Daily Cal, talking to him about that. And my angle was, why would you possibly do this? You're going to be a high first round draft or high NFL draft pick. What's what do you get out of playing basketball now? It seems like there's so much to lose. And he just talked about how much he loved it. It was one of my favorite stories I wrote for the Daily Cal at that time. That was a really cool thing to do. I got him for a few minutes just in a hallway after a basketball game, and we talked about that. But there were a lot of very good athletes to cover back then, for sure.
And I just decided to add this question. Did you prefer covering games at Memorial Stadium or Haas Pavilion? Because I've never been to Haas personally. That's still on my bucket list, is to go to a Cal men's or women's basketball game there.
To be honest with you, holy cow, I'm dating myself now too. When I was a student there, writing for the Daily Cal, um, there was still Harmon Gym. It was still
Oh
a
wow.
tiny Harmon Gym, which was, if you were ever inside there, Derrick, it was like the size of a big high school gym. It was really incredible at that time.
Yeah.
And then they expanded into Haas Pavilion. I'm going to say no, Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
Memorial Stadium is beautiful. Even if you ever walk in when it's completely empty
Hmm.
and you just look around at the stadium, it's just this incredible looking structure.
Yeah.
It's just an old school, classic looking football stadium. And right in your laptop in the press box up there after the game, like a Saturday afternoon game was over, the sun starts to go down a little bit and the stadium starts to empty. It was just a really kind of almost magical setting to be. It's an incredible. It's still one of the most scenic places, right? You can watch a college football game. It's incredible. So I'll pick Memorial on that.
And as a Cal football alum, I know obviously we're in a new era with Tosh Lupoi there now. But I know this was like 2 years ago. As a Cal alum, how proud are you were to see college game day visit the campus there?
Oh, that was incredible to watch that. To watch the whole game day experience and unfolded. The game day segment early in the day couldn't have gone better, right? I mean, it couldn't have gone, they couldn't have scripted it any better with the turnout, the crowd turnout, and the hype around it. And it's Pat McAfee, right? Pat McAfee going
Yeah.
crazy and doing the Bear territory chant and everything. That was fantastic. and then the game that night. I was at the game that night, and
Oh,
for Cal to be whooping butt on the Hurricanes, almost capping off one of the best Cal football days in history, and for them to give up that lead, I always tell people it was the best ever Cal football morning and afternoon, and it was one of the worst, most deflating Cal football Saturday nights, all wrapped up in one 24-hour period, right?
yeah.
But nonetheless, having game day there, it was really cool. It was really awesome.
Yeah, funny story. So my friend got married that same day in Monterey. Shout out to my friend Patrick. And for like 30 seconds, because they announce, usually they announce game day the week before. For 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, can I pull it off? Can I go to game day at 5 a.m.? His
Yeah.
wedding, luckily, was like later. Or no, I'm sorry, his wedding was the day before, but it was gonna end like at 11. I'm like, should I actually just do an all-nighter, go up to Berkeley? I'm like, no, but it looked insane just watching on TV. And hopefully they might go back this year. Who knows with the new era going on with Ron Rivera and Tosh Lupoi. Hopefully they do. I mean, Cal football, if they're once they're good, I mean the fans are electric at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like they're recruiting well, that's for sure, right? So optimism. Whenever you get a new coach, right, young coach with a lot of energy too and enthusiasm, it just kind of injects life, optimism in everybody, right? You got to go out there and do it on the football field, obviously. But right now, it's pretty good being a Cal fan right now, just to see the recruits they're getting, and the offseason doesn't mean anything ultimately, but it's good. No, it feels like things are on the upswing right now. So we'll see.
For sure. What made you want to get a master's degree in journalism at Arizona State University?
Yeah, it's like that's the thing, right? You get out of school, you do your bachelor's, and are you gonna continue your education or just start working? I kind of just had this hope and this feeling that eventually maybe having a master's degree was going to be a good thing to be able to fall back on. And I definitely wanted to do it when I was still in a student frame of mind. So I graduated out of Cal. It was after the like December, after the winter 1997 semester, and had a chance to work at the Oakland Tribune on the copy desk at the Oakland Tribune, the sports copy desk as a copy editor, just as a temporary position. Somebody went on disability there, and they needed somebody to fill in. So I had a buddy from the Daily Cal who was already working there. Their office was in Pleasanton, the main copy desk at that time. And so I worked for about a semester's worth of time there. Again, getting great experience,
Mhm.
being exposed to professionals at a copy desk. I wasn't reporting or writing, but I was just kind of sitting, um, editing stories as they came in, writing headlines, writing cut lines, captions for photos, doing that kind of thing. That was a great career experience in itself. And at the same time, I was applying to grad schools and was like, am I going to continue on this path or go along this path? To be honest with you, I was an Arizona State fan growing up. Um, as a little kid, I was always a Sun Devil fan for sure. Had an uncle who played football there actually, and so I grew up kind of an ASU fan randomly,
Oh
and
wow.
then got older and found out they had a really good journalism program too. Took a family trip to Tempe, got to see the campus and walk around. I was sold. Once I found out they were a really good journalism program too, I knew I kind of wanted to take that opportunity. So I wasn't long removed from Cal undergrad when I did my graduate work there, and that was I loved living in the Tempe, Scottsdale, Phoenix area for 2 years. It was pretty awesome actually.
Yeah. Did you do any like freelance work during your time there?
Yeah, yeah.
Tempe?
So the Arizona Republic was the only big newspaper down there at the time, and I did a lot of freelancing for them. I'm trying to think how long I did it during my second year there. It was a 2-year graduate journalism program. Did I do it my first year? I think I started maybe the end of my first year and did it all through my second year there too. I was doing a lot, and I was hopeful that might lead to a newspaper job right there at the Arizona Republic.
Yeah.
They didn't have much in the way of openings when I was graduating from the ASU grad program. But if I could have got a newspaper job there, I would have stayed. I really loved living in Tempe and being in that part of the country at that time. It was just, it grew on me. I really liked it. I never stayed for a whole summer, so I never got the whole Phoenix summer, 110, 115 degrees nonstop, on and
Yeah.
on and on. But it was pretty hot in August and up into late May when I was there. But I definitely would have stayed if I could have got a job there. Moved back home, and I was lucky enough to get hired at what was then the Contra Costa Times, now the East Bay Times newspaper, just like a month after getting back. So the timing just worked out really. I was really fortunate. The timing worked out really good for me to get out of school and start my journalism career.
Nice. And was your goal to always be a beat writer, or did you want to dabble in like being a columnist? Because I know you did some columnist work during your time at Cal.
Yeah, I think by the time I was in college and really like seeing journalism as a definite possible career path. I think just being a beat writer of some kind, I kind of like the idea of following a team, kind of being embedded with the team. And once I kind of got the concept of what that was and it entailed and everything, and traveling to every city they're going to, that's kind of that was definitely what I wanted to do. That's why I was trying to, like I said, learn as much as you could from the other professional journalists working alongside as I was coming up through college media. Um, that's kind of the route that I wanted to go. Now, eventually, I don't want to. Maybe we got other questions about when I got into writing too. But I was a general assignment sports writer for a while. That was really cool too. I actually really liked that because it was great getting a variety of things to do as well. I was covering everything from doing covering A's and Giants games in a backup role to
Yeah.
covering golf, covering a lot of stuff at Sonoma Raceway. I got to cover Daytona 500 in person. Paper sent me to Florida to cover Daytona 500 back when newspapers had the travel budgets to do that kind of thing. Um, it's just a lot of cool stuff I got to cover for sure. But
Yeah.
once I got a chance on the A's beat, and it was like, wow, that felt like um, goal accomplished. Took a while to get it that time because there was a lot of competition. We had a lot of great, awesome young sports writers on our staff at that time,
Mhm.
and there was a lot of veteran beat writers who were entrenched and weren't looking to leave at that time. Now I feel like young journalists have an opportunity to get on really coveted beats, high profile beats a lot quicker now. That's the nature of the business. Back then, you had to pay your dues. I covered high school sports, and I was a backup general assignment sports writer for a good 6 or 7 years before I got my first beat writing job, and that was not unusual back then. You had to really kind of pay your dues, and it was an incremental climb up the ladder, that's for sure.
What year that you covered the Daytona 500 as a NASCAR fan here?
That was, I believe, 2006. Jimmy Johnson won it that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
What an experience. Do you know what that experience? I wasn't a traveling NASCAR writer, right? I was just some
Right.
guy from a West Coast newspaper. And the West Coast, let's face it, there's not a huge NASCAR media presence, right?
Right.
Covering NASCAR on the West
Yeah.
Coast.
Yeah.
But a guy named John Cardinelli, I don't know if you've ever come across that name. He was the longtime um, PR director at Sonoma Raceway. He used to work at the East Bay Times, which is then Contra Costa Times like me. Then he became the PR director at Sonoma Raceway. Anyway, long story short, he was big on promoting motorsports any way possible. And he went to my sports editor at the time at the Contra Costa Times and said, look, this is what percentage of our ticket buyers at our Sonoma Raceway events, the percentage of them that live in Contra Costa County. You need to be covering motorsports as good as you can. You should be sending your writer to different events like this. So I credit John, who passed away from stomach cancer years ago. He was a great guy. He was such a pro, so great at what he did in PR work. Anybody who was up there covering an event will tell you that, who got to meet him. He was a big reason, I think, why I got to cover the Daytona 500 in person. That was 2006. Jimmy Johnson won it. There were so many media covering it there. I had to sit in a little underground bunker underneath the track and watch it on TV. But luckily, before the race, I walked across the track up to the main press box, and it was something walking across that track, the steep embankment. It was like walking up a hill like this, you know?
Right.
You don't get that until you walk on one of those super speedway ovals and see how massive it really is. That was an experience.
Yeah, I still have not been to a NASCAR race. That's still on my list. I did get a chance to go to Daytona. Just on, we were at Universal Studios, I think, for my mom's conference, and my mom's working, right, and we're actually doing the fun stuff. So, I think my dad and I, my sister, I think my mom actually came too because it was the day before her conference started in Orlando, and I'm like, hey, let's just go to Daytona because it's right there.
So you're a
Just
big NASCAR guy.
big NASCAR guy,
If you
yeah.
could snap your fingers and go to any NASCAR race or any venue, where would it be?
Oh,
You have one in mind?
putting me on the spot, Joe. Daytona for sure. Uh, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but I want to see the Indy 500 because
Right.
I love motors, IndyCar. Um, Bristol's pretty, Bristol, I think, just because of the
I
chaos.
always wanted to go to Bristol just because it's so small. I always thought that'd be a really cool place to see one. Yeah, I think that'd be mine probably.
Yeah. Sonoma's on my list just because it's low. It's obviously local, regional.
Yeah.
So that's still on my list. I tried to convince my dad to go, or we're trying to pick between going to that one next summer or the American Century Championship because it's his birthday's in a few weeks, actually in July. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's like
yeah.
1A, 1B. But yeah,
Any
Daytona
any
simply. for the history of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can feel all the legends. Dale Senior, Dale Jarrett. I mean, the list goes on and on. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So I shouldn't have said there's not a lot of NASCAR presence on the West Coast. You're a big NASCAR fan, so there you go.
I'm the last of the Mohicans, as they say, for
Yeah.
NASCAR.
There's a lot of them out here, actually. There's a lot of motorsports fans out here,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
So I know you covered prep sports to start off your professional career at the Contra Costa Times, and you're kind of in basically a high school football nucleus. De La Salle is, basically stones throw away. So who are some like your notable athletes that you covered that are
Oh my
now
gosh. I
thrive
covered,
professionally?
man, again, fortunate for the timing of things. I covered the Contra Costa Times at that time. De La Salle football was such a big story. You had a dedicated De La Salle football beat writer. That was unusual for um, papers that covered prep sports at that time, right? But De La Salle was in the middle of this national record winning streak at that time. If anybody saw the movie When the Game Stands Tall, it's about the winning streak and everything. That a lot of that streak was happening during that time. I got to cover them in 2001, '01, '02, and '03. I covered Maurice Jones-Drew when he was at De La Salle. Back then, he was just known as Maurice Drew. Um, Covered him. Covered Derrick Landry, a stud defensive tackle who went to play at Notre Dame and got time in the NFL.
Wow.
Cameron Colvin was a stud receiver for them who went to Oregon and got a little bit of time with the Niners, I believe. Um, DJ Ward was a defensive back for De La Salle who went on to play for the Broncos eventually, right? He played for the Broncos, I believe.
Yeah.
Matt Gutierrez was a quarterback who went to Michigan. I think he was their starting quarterback for a full season. Got a little bit of time with the Patriots. I got to give a shout out to Nate Kenyon. Nate Kenyon was a really great college football player, great De La Salle player. Nate's now the head football coach at Clayton Valley Charter High School, so I had to give him a shout out for that. I covered Nate, which makes me feel really old now. The current football coach at the high school where I teach was a high school athlete who I covered way back in the day. That'll make you feel pretty dated too. Covered athletes like that. Covered as far as so many great athletes. I'm trying to think of other. I'm kind of drawing a blank on a lot of the others too. They'll come to me now, but I mean, covered guys like baseball players like Chris Gruler and Daniel Denham, who were stud pitchers at Deer Valley High and Liberty High, and were first round picks. Chris Gruler was the number 3 overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft back in 2002, I believe. I got to cover his kind of story through that. Um, yeah, a lot of cool athletes. Kyle Wright and Sam Keller were 2 great quarterbacks. Kyle Wright was a starting quarterback at University of Miami for a
Hmm.
while. I covered him in high school, and Sam Keller was at ASU for a while.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, for sure, for
I
sure.
think I
Others,
watched one of
I'm leaving out some other ones too.
I think I watched one of your older interviews. I think Brandon Crawford too, that you got the chance.
Brandon Crawford, holy cow! I covered Brandon Crawford when he was a freshman starting shortstop for Foothill High School in Pleasanton. I got to cover him, and his coach at that time, Angelo Scavone, was like, "You got to watch this kid Crawford. He's a freshman for us. He's an up and comer." He talked about that, and then a couple years later, Brandon was the quarterback on the football team. May have been his junior or senior year, and I got to cover him. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, that was something. I mean, who knew what he would go on to be, right?
Yeah.
As a Giants legend. But way back then, it was like everybody who was coaching at that time was like, keep an eye on this kid
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Thank you for bringing that name up. And there's so many others that I'm not bringing up right now, but yeah.
And what was that like just covering De La Salle and obviously the legend coach Ladouceur who led that team? I forgot the amount of games they won consecutively. It was like 100 and something consecutive.
151, I think it got to 150, 151, I believe. Yeah, and they were literally no joke. They were a national story when they were doing that because everybody knew about the streak. Back then, um, I mean, social media wasn't, again, date myself here, but social media wasn't a huge thing, but already high school football was getting this huge online following, and you were able to follow it more in a nationwide scope, where before it was kind of more of a regional thing. And De La Salle just has such a huge, they were so, it was such a brand already nationwide. So covering them was a national story while they had this winning streak going. I got to cover them, their first game against Long Beach Poly in 2001 down at Long Beach. It was probably still to this day, probably the most hyped football game ever, because Long Beach Poly had produced so many NFL players over the years. De La Salle had this legendary tradition and winning streak. There was so much hype to this game. So one of my old coworkers, Neil Hayes, who just again tragically passed away not very long ago at all,
Yeah.
wrote the book When the Game Stands Tall that the movie was based off of. And somebody else wrote a book just on the De La Salle Long Beach Poly game. So that's how much hype it had. So I got to cover that. The
Wow.
next year, '02, got to go to Hawaii. As a high school writer, I got to go to Hawaii because they played St. Louis High School of Honolulu in Hawaii. And in 2003, Evangel Christian, a powerhouse Louisiana school, came and played De La Salle at Diablo Valley College, and that was nationally televised on ESPN. So covering them for 3 years was a treat and great experience and great training to be a journalist. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It was great.
Did you always want to cover baseball as a beat? Was that always your goal, Joe?
I would have covered any of the big three: football, basketball, or baseball. Maybe baseball's nearest and dearest to my heart, but boy, I would have covered anything, including college beats. I would have been thrilled covering Cal or Stanford, any of those beats too. At that time, back when all the Barry newspapers dedicated beat writers to the college sports too, right? They don't do that now.
Hmm. And
But
that was, yeah, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
no, no, baseball, football, or basketball for sure.
Of course, obviously, my room's adored in green and gold. It's not for the Oregon Ducks; it's for the Oakland Athletics, as you can
That's
see.
acceptable. Okay, yeah, for
The logo
sure.
there, not the one, not the team one they got now.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite memories of going to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum?
As a fan or as a reporter or both or
It
whatever.
could be both.
Oh man. I mean, Ricky Henderson was probably the first like star athlete I was aware of as a little kid. So just watching him was incredible. Watching Ricky, all the great players they had when I was growing up throughout the '80s, right, late '80s. I mean, believe it or not, I mean a lot of young Ace fans now may not understand the Ace had one of the biggest payrolls in the game, if not the biggest payroll in the game back then in the
Yeah.
late '80s, early '90s. They did. Um, Going to all those games and seeing so many of those star players. I mean, it was incredible. My dad was able to take me to the '87 All-Star game back then. I thought that was incredible seeing an actual All-Star game in person. Getting to go to one of the Bay Bridge World Series games. And we'll go into an '88 World Series game. Went to both games at the Oakland Coliseum in 1989. I got to go to a World Series game in 1990. So as a fan, watching all those incredible players, and then getting to cover games there was a treat too. Now, by the time I was covering the A's beat, the Oakland Coliseum didn't look as beautiful aesthetically as it did before the renovation when the Raiders came back from LA. They obviously the Coliseum got a facelift, and not for the better. I think we'll all agree. But being able to just work in that press box and covering, I'm sure you will probably cover other territory about that too, but getting to cover all the athletes I got to cover and some mediocre teams, but some pretty good postseason teams too. It was just a treat being able to call the Oakland Coliseum like kind of like my workplace, my office for a number of years. And that was the stadium I grew up going to games to as a kid. The Oakland Coliseum was my first introduction to pro sports, and it was, I mean, so it was kind of a magical place as a kid, right? For sure.
Yeah, I could still vividly see kind of entering the. I always like to enter the D gate because I don't know my initial, right? So just entering the D gate, and then you see kind of the mosaic of like I think that time it was Dennis Eckersley when the last time I was there.
Yeah.
Just seeing all the former champions, and then obviously the ramp going up to the upper deck, which I thought as a stadium nerd, and I'm sure all journalists are stadium nerds and arena nerds, but it just felt like you were going into like the gladiators, see the gladiators come out. Yeah, it's a special place. It was kind of like our Disneyland in a way. But I mean, just a lot of happy memories there. So I know you covered for the A's for, I believe, what, 10 plus years, Joe? Or
11, yeah, from 2007 to 2017. Yeah, 11 seasons.
what were some of the memorable A's games that you covered?
Hands down, the 2012 season was the best season. That was, I mean, the A's are coming off a string of mediocre seasons. The first 5 years or so I was on the beat. The A's weren't making the playoffs. They weren't the worst team in the
Right.
majors. They were just painfully mediocre to watch on the field. They really were. And the biggest storylines were who are they going to trade away next as far as the big names of the trading deadline, right? Because that's what they were doing back then, as you well know. But then 2012 hits, and it didn't start out as a great season. That was Bob Melvin's first full season as
Right.
the A's manager. Didn't start out great, and um, they got a guy by the name of Brandon Moss who made a big impact. Brandon Inge came in and was a leader. Chris Carter kind of developed into a power hitter. They had Jonas Cespedes. He was his first year with them. They had some good young pitchers, and they make this huge second half run, overtake the Texas Rangers the last week of the regular season, and win the AL West on the last day of the regular season at home at the Coliseum. That was incredible. And then they make the postseason, and 2 years in a row, the guy who just announced his retirement at the end of this season, Justin Verlander, beats him in back-to-back game fives. But to answer your question, that 2012 season was pretty magical. I think if you ask Billy Beane, I think he'd say that was one of his favorite seasons of his whole time with the A's too. David Force would probably say that. Bob Melvin would probably say that too, maybe. Just as far as the rush they did in the second half of the season to win that division was remarkable. And to not even be in first place at all till the very end of the season was incredible because again, it was a string of so many just very pedestrian, mediocre seasons. To have that happen and have it all just the momentum build up and have that be something that happened at the very end of the season was incredible to witness, incredible to cover. That was the high point for me for sure, was that 2012 season.
A lot of characters: Johnny Gomes, Grant
Yeah,
Balfour, let's see, Jemile Weeks, Ryan Cook.
yeah.
It was pure insanity.
Coco
Yeah,
Crisp, right?
Coco
Yeah,
Chris, who could forget? Yeah, because I remember, now kids are probably on your phone. Hopefully, they're not on your phone during class, Joe. But I
yeah.
remember
That's another. We can make a whole another podcast out of that subject,
that'll
probably.
be later
Yeah,
later in the
right.
interview.
Yeah,
But I remember Washington Middle School. That's my middle school that I went to. Go Broncos! Down the street from my house, and I vividly remember because I think the season ended in October, I believe, 2012, the first week of October.
I believe
So
probably.
I knew the A's were playing at 12:35, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna miss it. And this is back then when you had like Motorola, wasn't a touchscreen right there like that. So
Yeah,
Motorola. So literally, I would just look like sneak it in between my backpack, look because we didn't have the MLB app on those type of phones. And then I think when I just like because luckily the middle school my house is like a straight uh walk, so it's like 12 minutes. I kind of sprinted. Dodge cars luckily didn't get hit, and then kind of turned it they watched like the final two innings that that kind of felt the closest I've felt to a World Series in a way, just because of pure euphoria. So unexpected too with that team.
yeah.
Um, and then also I think the game 2013, speaking of Justin Verlander, this was 2013 game two or one, him versus Sonny Gray, where they were just dueling each other.
Game
And
two, game two of that
game two.
2013, right? ALDS. Yeah,
Yeah. And Stephen Vogt got the walk-off hit, and literally section, I think like 308, 309. Everybody stood up because it was just pure euphoria, walk-off. And I just stood there like, oh, holy cow, we
yeah,
won that
yeah.
game. It was just pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember that 2012 year. I think after the Tigers beat the A's in that first round, moved on. They were commenting still. The Tigers commented on the atmosphere at the
yeah.
Oakland Coliseum. Right? It was really, man, that was something. That was something. Wasn't always like that at the Coliseum. Wasn't always that atmosphere, obviously, and the crowds weren't always quite that big, obviously. But when it got going, the momentum hit with that postseason run. That was something. That was incredible for sure.
Yeah, I tell my friends that all the time. My giant friends, they don't believe me, but oh well, they missed
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Who are some of the your favorite players, coaches, or front office personnel that you enjoyed interviewing and getting to know for your time with or covering the A's?
A lot of them. I can say the A's didn't have a lot of jerks on their team to cover, on the staff, on the roster. Let's face it, they always had one of the lower payrolls, so it wasn't like you had players with a lot of these huge egos because of the paychecks they were getting, right? So there were a lot more good dudes and bad dudes, I can honestly say. You mentioned coaches. As far as one of my favorite coaches, they had Chili Davis as their hitting coach
Yeah,
for a couple of years. Chili Davis was one of my first favorite players, one of my first favorite Giants players. I was a Giants fan too when I grew up. So when he becomes an A's hitting coach and I got to interview him, that was a thrill. Just like the little kid in me was thrilled to interview him, right? Chili Davis. That was really cool getting to talk to him. I remember just kind of at Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay at St. Petersburg where the Rays play before one game, just sitting with him in one of the tunnels, outside the A's clubhouse, sitting in a golf cart, just talking with him. A lot of it was an off the record chat, and he was talking really honestly about a lot of the players. That was just incredibly cool talking to him, talking baseball, and just being able to have that kind of conversation. Bob Melvin was a great manager to cover. He really understood what the media was doing and had a really good rapport with the media, with the beat writers, especially at that time. And as far as the players, there were so many. My gosh, Stephen Vogt was a really good dude. Anybody will tell you that. I think covered the A's. He was such a good guy. Doolittle was such a good guy. Sean Doolittle, Brandon Moss was a great guy. Mark Ellis
Mm.
was a great guy. My first year covering, and I was just kind of learning the ropes, learning what I was doing. Jason Kendall was a
Yeah.
really good dude to talk to. Early on, Bobby Crosby and Eric Chavez, which even younger A's fans will remember those names for sure. I think, or they've heard of those names. By the time I was covering the team, I was just talking to somebody about that today. Um, Crosby and Chavez, the only reason we were talking a lot of times because they had so many injuries, they were hurt. We were talking to them all the time about when do you think you're going to be back. So it was like whenever you were interviewing them, it was never an interview they would have necessarily looked forward to, because they knew the questions weren't going to be real positive and the subject wasn't going to be real positive. But they're always just class guys to talk to, and they're really good guys. Enjoyed both of those guys, but so many great personalities on that team. Bartolo Colon was an absolute character in the clubhouse. He was playing jokes on the writers and ball players too. He would always like have a balloon or something to always make something pop really loud, or just kind of like trying to startle somebody or doing something like that. He was a character. That team had just a lot of characters on it for sure.
Now, did you go see Giants games at Candlestick Park or?
Yeah, man, you're trying to date me here again, Derrick. Yeah, I did. I did growing up. Yeah, Candlestick. Yeah, I did. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
and after I first got my license, that was a big deal, making like a solo, or when I was behind the wheel driving with other people to Candlestick Park,
yeah,
where I lived in Antioch. That was an adventure. That was a journey. But I did go to see. I didn't see nearly as many games at Candlestick as I did at the Oakland Coliseum. So
mhm.
I don't have the affinity for Candlestick or the magic memories. Not quite as nostalgic about Candlestick nearly as I am the Coliseum. But I did go to some games at Candlestick. Yeah, yeah. Even before I got on the A's beat, I got to cover a couple games at Candlestick, just going out to Niner games, writing sidebars and that
Wow.
kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, because when I was a kid, this because I know they moved to I still call it Pac Bell, China Basin. I don't call it Oracle Park.
yeah,
Still
yeah,
nostalgic about that. But I remember the Niners had like a training camp opening day, whatever, or not opening day, but like an open practice back in like 2007 or 8. And when you go to like the south end zone and they give you a tour of the Niners locker room, and I think the line started kind of where there used to be the out of town scoreboard right there for the Giants, and then where the football scene comes out. So I look and I see like the Giants. I'm like, what, Dad? The Giants played here, and my dad explained the whole story.
yeah.
So that's if I had a time capsule wish, I would go see a baseball game at Candlestick Park. I know obviously the cold and stuff like that, but I would have enjoyed it, I think.
That was a thing. That was a thing. It was like you can kind of compare it a little bit to like like in the years at the Coliseum where the A's weren't drawing a ton of fans, but the fans were characters and diehards, and they were just so passionate about the team. I mean, like I said, I didn't go to a ton of Giants games, but I got picked up on the same vibe at some of those Giants games where it was in the summertime, the weather was still miserable, and maybe they weren't always getting the biggest crowds, but the people that were there were characters, and they were making the most of it.
I would say the nicest stadium staff anywhere. Just everybody, all the ushers were so friendly. It's like you
Yeah,
knew them.
yeah,
Going back, as your family too. So
yeah.
yeah, we missed that place. Let's see what my next question was for you. Oh, so I know you obviously covered the team with the Bay Area News Group, and then you got basically got, I wouldn't say promotion, but you transitioned to being a full-on A's insider for NBC Sports California. Was it tough transitioning for just being focused on print to now going to TV and making sure you hit all the TV times, but also try and concise what you say in like 90-second segments, basically?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a challenge, is learn how to yeah, first of all, being on camera and having something in your ear, right? Having something in your ear and having a producer in the studio talk to you in your ear. That took a while to get used to, right? You're saying something and they're whispering something in your ear, whether they're telling you what the next topic's going to be or something like that, or telling you to wrap up like that. They got to say that in your ear, time to wrap. They got to whisper it in your ear. Sometimes they don't whisper and you're like, and it's like you're trying to act distracted. So that was yeah, it took some getting used to for sure. I was lucky enough my last couple years. covering it for Bay Area News Group. Comcast, it was then Comcast Sports Bay Area before they rebranded NBC.
Mhm.
They had me on just like a guest, like a cameo a couple times, like for a pregame. So I had a little bit of experience doing TV before that. So the actual getting in front of the camera felt somewhat comfortable. And it was just, I was doing what I was always doing, right? I was covering the A's and talking about the A's, but learning the terminology, the TV terminology and all that, and just kind of learning the mechanics of it was a little bit of an adjustment too. But I loved it. I loved the TV part of it a lot. It was an adjustment. Sometimes it was crazy juggling, being on camera, coming back writing your story, or writing first, then going on TV and filling both those roles in the same night after a game. That was a
Right.
lot to juggle sometimes, especially being on camera and then having to come back up to the press box and finish your story after that. It was tough to get the creativity, the juices flowing again after you're on camera to finish your story. But that was part of the fun of it too, was being able to do that. I mean, it was cool. It was cool. I loved being at both places. But that was definitely a new challenge doing the part TV, part writing thing. I really liked it, really enjoyed that actually. It was really cool to do for sure. And love the people I was working alongside, just like I love the people I was working alongside at Bay Area News Group too, just people, good people to work with, people that loved doing what they were doing.
Yeah, because that's how I first actually saw you too when you covered days for NBC Sports California. And how were you just able to balance, remembering what to say on TV, but also, okay, I got to make sure I include this in my game recap or whatever.
I guess if it was important enough to say on TV, I probably had to remember to get include it in the story, right? But you're right, that was tough because sometimes I'd be writing a certain angle, specific angle for my written story, and on the TV side, they want to talk about something different. Maybe they want to talk about what somebody specifically said in the clubhouse after the game. So chatting about that, and then um, sometimes they melded together. Sometimes what I was writing about is the same thing we were talking about on TV, but sometimes it wasn't. So that was a challenge, kind of differentiating, getting your in the right mind frame to what you were talking about on TV and what you were writing about too was a challenge too. But you know what? They ask for your input when you're in that position. They ask what you want to talk about on TV too. And a lot of times what I wanted to talk about was what I was writing about too. And that's what they wanted too. So ideally both things kind of mesh together like that. But there's a lot of communication going on with that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're going to share my screen because this is actually kind of going down memory lane into the archive here. So I think Joe could see it. So this is actually found the photo, by the way, folks. So yeah, this is when I met
Oh
Joe.
wow.
Yeah, this is when I met Joe back in 2019. He spoke at Mark Purdy's we did call him professor. We just said, "Hey, what's up, Mark?"
Yeah.
Mark Purdy's sports journalism class, which, by the way, my dad would always want to hear every single detail about this class. Who came in to the talk or yada yada. He didn't care about any of my general ed classes, but for this one
Yeah.
class, because he knew I'm like, hey, I got Mark Purdy, the professor. Oh my god! And
Yeah.
so, because I would call them about like 3 times a week, being up at San Jose State. And
Yeah.
I think our classes were like Monday, or no, I think there was Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember you spoke and then you were
Yeah.
kind enough to take that photo. So I thought I'd just share that. I forgot who took this. I think this was my friend Max Miller, who now covers the
Okay.
Sharks.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Um,
does. I remember that day. I remember that day. I remember that photo being taken. I remember in there talking to you guys. I can picture the classroom
yeah,
right now at San Jose State for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
So that leads me to my question, because I know you mentioned earlier in the interview that your backup plans was to be a coach or to be a teacher, but what made you want to get into teaching?
You brought up Mark Purdy. He kind of opened the door for that actually. When he knew he was going to step away from teaching that sports journalism class at San Jose State, he's like, is this something you're interested in? And I kind of was, I wasn't at NBC anymore, and I was definitely trying to get the same kind of job I had with NBC, but I also knew it was going to be tough doing that and be able and stay in the Bay Area market, which I wanted to do. I didn't want to move somewhere far away and kind of start in a small market and try to work my way up. So eventually, I knew maybe I got to find the next thing after being like an everyday journalist, right? So I'm like, I want to try teaching. So that was the first um, just experiment with teaching was teaching that sports journalism class at San Jose State, and then got a second class there, like another media writing class and advising the San Jose State Student Magazine, that kind of thing. So I did that for 2 years, 4 semesters. Funny enough, it was right when COVID hit. It was my first
Right.
semester doing it, only a few weeks, and then the shutdown happens. So almost all that was remote, talking like this, actually. In fact, Derek, if you saw me, the classes that I did at San Jose State, it's probably the exact, the backdrop right now doesn't look much different probably than when I was teaching that class, probably because it was on Zoom like this, a lot of it. But
Right.
that was the start of it there. And
Mhm.
that was really cool. That's such a great journalism program. I'm sure you'll agree. Anybody getting in who is interested in journalism and going through San Jose State, just an incredible program to be a part of. But a lot of faculty that really just are really passionate about what they're doing
Yeah.
and getting you trained to get out in the real world to do that. So that was really cool. Get into getting to do that. But it was hard getting full-time tenure as a college professor. I didn't realize how much time that was going to take.
Mhm.
And once they went back to in-person teaching, making that commute just wasn't going to be viable for me. So
Right.
I started subbing at Clayton Valley High School and enjoyed it there and ended up getting my teaching credential eventually to teach in high school. And that's what I've been doing now since 2023. And I'm never envisioned long ago that I'd be doing this path eventually, but so happy to be teaching now and really find it very rewarding. There's a lot rewarding about it. It's not a path I would have predicted for myself way back when.
Wow. And leading into my next question, was what was I gonna, oh, I did forget it. Hold on. Sorry. We have to go to my notes. I
You're
apologize.
good.
Every good journalist does this, ladies and gentlemen.
Your guess is
Um
rambling a little bit too, so I can understand if you lose your train.
no, you're Yeah, luckily this is recorded on the YouTube and on Spotify. But
Yeah.
my next question was going to be because I know after you left NBC Sports was you went to broadcast for the Vallejo Admirals,
Oh
and then you
yeah.
also did a
Yeah.
you worked for Cal, I believe the Cal Athletics.
Yes.
So talk about transitioning to those like quick jobs, going into broadcasting and then also serving as kind of the PR guy or the
Okay. Yeah.
SID for Cal.
Yeah. After leaving NBC, I'm like, well, maybe there's a way to stay in media through I always thought, I mean, I'd never done any play-by-play announcing, so I just wanted to try my hand at it and see if there's something that I can do maybe. So I just spent a summer 2018 announcing for the Vallejo Admirals. They were a independent league team in Vallejo, California, not far from where I'm at in Walnut Creek right now, and they're in what was called the Pacific League.
Mhm.
Then I think it was Pacific League. I think I had that right. And they would just play teams around the area, teams in Martinez, San Rafael, Sonoma, Pittsburgh, Napa, all around the area. And it was just like a doing play-by-play for them. It was a summer team that started like around Memorial Day. They played in September. It was mainly guys who had kind of like finished college, didn't get drafted, and just weren't ready to give up the dream. One of the guys from that league right now is in the majors, Jared Koenig, if you know that name. He's
Yeah.
a left-handed relief pitcher. He was pitching for the San Rafael Pacifics the year that I announced for them. So that was really cool and really good experience. Again, I wasn't ready to like drop everything and go move to a small town and try to start like announcing minor league baseball. But it was such a cool experience, and I'm glad that I did it. And it reminded me of being a beat writer in a way, in that you're with a team every day and you're trying to build relationships and get players to open up to you,
Yeah.
because that's how you get your material to talk about during a long 9 inning game. And as you know, there's a lot of dead time during a baseball game when you're describing it on the radio. There's an art. It's such a talent, such a skill to be able to not only vividly describe what's going on when the action starts, but fill in those spaces in between the pitches too, and having good information to talk about, right? So you're kind of doing your homework before games, talking to players, just like if you were covering the team as a beat writer. So that was cool. That was in the summer of 2018. The next year, I got another cool opportunity. Um, Cal Baseball, acting as their sports information director. My buddy Ben Enos was the Cal Baseball sports information director. He left for another job opportunity, and right before the 2019 college baseball season started, Cal called and said, "Would you be willing to do this on a temporary basis, filling in as the Cal sports information director, or like media relations director, right?
Yeah.
Being the media representative
Yeah.
between the program and the outside media." So I did that. That was just a temporary thing, but that was through the 2019 season. And again, so fortunate my timing, right? For the 2019 Cal baseball season, what happened? You had Andrew Vaughn, who'd go on to be the number 3 pick in that next baseball draft of the White Sox. He was on that Cal team. Corey Lee was a catcher who also got drafted in the first round. Cal had 2 first-round draft picks
Wow.
um, that eventually made it to the big leagues. Darren Baker, Dusty Baker's son, was on that team. He made the bigs. Cameron Eden was an outfielder who got a cup of coffee in the big leagues. Um, they had other great players too. I got to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where they made the NCAA regionals there. I got to see a cool SEC baseball town I'd never been to. And I got to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because they played at LSU. I got to see how rabid SEC fans are, not just about football, but about college baseball, which is an eye opener to me. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Getting to do that was cool. It was very cool. It was fun being on the inside instead of being a reporter kind of on the outside trying to get your information on the inside. It was cool being a part of a program like that as a sports information director. That was a treat. That was really cool.
Did any memories pop up of just, kind of working for the athletic department and, being there as a student? Now you're coming back as an adult, as a professional. Okay, now I'm working for my alma mater and working for a prestigious baseball program like Cal.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool, kind of trying to set up interviews for some of the Daily Cal student writers, and I was like, I was them one time, you know, I was them at one point. So I was kind of on the opposite end of it. That was cool, and just Mike New is still the head baseball coach. He was a former A's pitcher. He's a
Yeah.
Cal baseball coach. He was there when I was in that job. So just getting to talk to him and his staff and being able to sit in on their conversations was really cool. Was really cool too. It was fun and getting to go to different. I'd never been to Corvallis, Oregon before. They played
Right.
at Oregon State, which is a baseball power,
Yeah.
and getting to go. I got to check that Pac-12 city off my list that I'd never been to before. That was awesome. And going to Tucson, I hadn't spent much time in Tucson before. Salt Lake City when they played the Utes. That was another very cool experience. Being a journalist helps you in that kind of a position for sure. Being a
Yeah.
sports information director.
So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go back to your time as a professor at San Jose State. Because I know I worked on the Spear, or I was with the Spear,
Yeah.
and obviously the fall
Yeah.
2020 magazine. 2020 was such a insane, heartbreaking year, whether personally, professionally. Obviously, with the George Floyd
Yeah.
murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and I know I wrote because this was when we were. Here, we'll flip through the pages, but I know when I wrote for the Spear, and I just wrote about kind of three student athletes that were, or yeah, two student athletes that were impacted. Caleb Simmons and who was a basketball player, Natasha Harris, who kind of spoke on, kind of what was going down because
Mhm.
there was protests nationwide.
Yeah.
And so I remember you, I think, emailing me or somebody emailed me. I think it was Sierra, who was the
Mhm.
editor, emailed me and
Mhm.
look at that right here, beautiful cover. Of course, the advisor was Mr. Stiglich right here. Sierra was the editor. She messaged me like, "Hey, Joe, kind of forward me your contact info. Would
Yeah.
you be willing to share the story that you did with the spear?"
Yeah.
Um, and also, I can't mention the late great Kate Hodet, who was our executive design producer. We lost her far too soon a few years ago. Um, but yeah, there's your boy right there. And I was gonna bring out the printed magazine. It's somewhere in the archives here at my house here at the
Yeah.
Owl Palace. So, of course, but my this was my story right here. Ernie Gonzalez, the great Ernie Gonzalez, who's now an advisor at San Jose State, and just a powerful um, photo there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question was going to be just what were some of your memories just advising through that magazine, which by the way won an award. We don't like to humble brag ourselves as
Yeah.
journalists,
Yeah.
but just kind of that special edition that we did.
First of all, it doesn't seem that long ago. Looking through all this now, it seems like it was just like it just happened. I put this magazine together and being there, everything. I was so much, that was, I mean, at that time we worked that was like one magazine. We worked just because it was all remote too. We were all meeting, all of our planning meetings were like this, right? So we just did
Right.
one magazine, one print magazine for the end of the year and a digital version too. But like we built up all semester to do that. So look at that, so many great photos. That's a slice of life from back then, right? What we
Hmm.
were all going through and everything. And it was kind of like, how do you kind of, yeah, how do you kind of, because it's only, you're trying to like build a magazine and you start working at the beginning of the semester and it's not going to come out till the end of the semester. So you're like, how do you kind of capture something big picture that's going to hold and have staying power and kind of stay fresh? So we just tried to write big picture stories, right, about what life was like back then and everything and trying to do it from a lot of different angles and that kind of thing. And I just remember what I was most proud of, how many people, especially the conditions we were under, was all working remotely like that. And everybody just kind of was really the students that grabbed the bull by the horns and put the whole thing together, right? And Sierra kind of got drafted to be the editor in chief of that magazine that year. She didn't know she was going to do it as a fall semester was starting. I literally went to her and said, "Hey, you'd be interested in doing this because I need somebody to do it." and she was game for it. She did a great job, and everybody that took a leadership role did so good, and all you that contributed to that. That was really cool. That was really gratifying to see the finished product there, and that was a very cool thing, and I hopefully all the students, everybody on staff, hopefully felt the same way. Wouldn't you agree when it comes to journalism? One of the great things is you get to see like the product of what you did, right? You
Mm.
could, if it's a print product, you could hold it in your hands or you're reading it on screen. If you're a writer or a photographer, or if you do page layout or even online page, digital design, whatever it is, you get to see the work you produced. I mean, it's there for you to see. It's a tangible like result of what you did. And it means a lot when it makes you feel just really good when you see kind of the final product, all the effort that went into that, right? So that's a really cool thing, man. Thanks for finding this and thanks for putting it up there.
Of course,
It
it
seems like
just
it was not very long ago at all. At
I
all.
know it's crazy because I graduated high school 2016, so later this year I'm having my 10-year high school reunion, which is nuts. It's crazy, and
Yeah.
this is what 5 years ago. Well, 5 years ago, and 6 years ago in December. But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to actually three of the student athletes I talked to: Natasha Harris, Darian Reed, and Caleb Simmons. So for their vulnerability and sharing the story. So I appreciate also Ernie Gonzalez for this just award-winning photography.
Right?
But yeah, I
It's
thought I'd
beautiful.
share that because I know,
Yeah.
especially me not having like any journalism kind of relevant people working in journalism. So even though I would promote my work on social media, as you know, Joe, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, I still have relatives that don't know how, how to work social media.
Right? Yeah.
So to be
Yeah.
able to kind of hold that physical copy in my hand, you
Yeah.
just kind of, it's insane to think like, wow, okay, I'm in a magazine and I'm writing for a magazine. I still get like that to my day for my current job too, where I have to cover events and I'm like, okay, the byline's by Derrick Al, it's not by anybody else,
Yeah. I
which
know,
is
right?
pretty gnarly because I know, I think as journalists too, I'm not sure if you feel the same way. You just don't know who's reading the story. It could be from not only locally but internationally too, which is pretty crazy.
It's really crazy for sure. For sure. Something to be proud of too, right? Something to be proud of. And it's when you see your name like that, you know what a responsibility comes with it too, to do the best job you can and make it accurate. And that's the other great thing too. It's rewarding to see your work. And when you see your name up there, you kind of understand what the responsibility comes with it, right? And you take pride in doing it. So that's thanks for showing that, man. Thanks for putting that up
Of
there.
course. That made me want to sign up for Access too. I think my last semester at San Jose State. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, big part of my journey. And we're almost done with the interview. Just a few more questions, Joe. Um, what advice would you have for young journalists looking to break through in journalism?
It's a lot different now. It's just completely different than when I broke in, right? For a lot of obvious reasons with the social media element and everything. And so um, there's so many different ways to break into the industry now. You've got, first of all, I'd say be optimistic in that there's so many different things you can do. You could write, you can take photos, you could be a social media whiz, you could shoot video. There's so many different ways of however you generate content. Be good, be well-rounded, be versatile. Okay. If you're comfortable writing and writing's your thing, make yourself comfortable doing a podcast like this, like you're doing, which means learn how to edit a podcast too. When I was doing an A's podcast with me and my buddy David Feldman, we're doing an A's related podcast, the Green and Bold podcast, we call it, after I was done being on the A's beats. I did teach myself how to edit podcasting, but that's a skill, right? If you know how to do that, edit video, shoot video, just be as well rounded as you can from a media standpoint, because nowadays you're not just a writer, you're not just an on camera person, you kind of have to be a Swiss Army knife and be as versatile as you can. So I would say get as comfortable doing as many multimedia things as you can. And if video is your thing and maybe talking and being on camera is your thing, and you don't think you're a strong writer, still know that if you can just get comfortable writing a few paragraphs, whatever it might be, you may have to do that as part of your job, right? So the more versatile you can be, the better off you're going to be for sure. And one thing if I give advice to my younger self that I think still holds true, even if sports journalism, if sports is the path you want to go, make yourself, if you're like working for a school publication, make yourself cover some hard news stuff and some non-sports stuff too, because you don't know when you're younger how much of your sports reporting job may entail um, getting access to court records because somebody was thrown in jail for something, or learning economics when it comes to understanding pro contracts, that kind of thing, right? Give yourself a non-sports background because eventually you're gonna have to fall back on that too for sure. That kind of stuff. There's a lot of opportunities out there now. You can get into journalism, sports media, sports content creation, whatever we want to label it now. Um, there's a lot of opportunities to do it, and you can start it at a really while you're still in high school. Basically, you can start doing it. So go after it, and don't be afraid to get your work critiqued too from people who are older and experienced. Ask for feedback too, and have thick skin if you get constructive criticism. Just know that it's for the best, and try to put it into play. Try to put it into practice.
Love that answer, Joe. And so I know you started out as a substitute teacher at Clayton Valley Charter High School, which, by the way, I like doing this for all these high schools I don't know of. The
Yeah.
alumni, Blake Anderson, who's an actor, also an A's fan. Let's see who else is on here. Khalil McKenzie, who played for the Bengals.
Yeah.
Scott Sanderson, former football player. Bob Thompson, former college basketball coach, and Sam Williams. So I know there's going to be some of your students on that notable alumni list. But going
Derrick, can I
back,
mention one name really quick?
go for it.
I mentioned one name. Watch the Major League Baseball draft this year. Former Clayton Valley kid, uh, Ryder Helfrich is going to be maybe a top 10 pick. He
Okay.
was a catcher at University of Arkansas, Ryder Helfrich. Yeah, keep an eye out for that name. He's a Clayton Valley kid that's going to get drafted high, and he's going to make some news. He's already making news now, but that's another kid to pay attention to
Love it.
for
Love it.
sure.
We'll be
Yeah.
watching. I know the draft's this weekend,
Yeah.
um, alongside with the All-Star Game Week
Yeah.
festivities. But my question was going to be, what subjects do you currently teach at Clayton Valley?
So I teach world history. The past few years, I taught world history and journalism. And this year I'm teaching world history and U.S. history. Teaching journalism is different than teaching at the college level. You're working with a lot of 14, 15-year-old kids. It's a challenge getting them to understand why journalism is important and what it is.
Right.
But that's your job. You got to do that. And I love doing it the last 3 years. We did so much great work that I'm so proud of for my students. It was hard getting more students involved in the class. So I'm like, I think I'm going to step away from journalism for this year. Maybe we can rethink it a little bit. And this year, I love teaching history. I got my teaching credential in social sciences. So I've been teaching world history, and this year I'm teaching that in U.S. history. I love teaching history because so much of it, you can tie a lot of real world current stuff into it also.
Right.
I'm surprised how many students, I know a lot of students probably think history is boring, but I have a lot of students who are really into it too, and they love engaging in class discussions. So yeah, I'm a history teacher right now. And I love doing it. It's fun stuff.
Wow. Love to hear it. I'm a history guy. U.S. social
There you go.
studies, world
Yeah.
history. Just fascinated by it.
Yeah.
I know I mentioned the cell phone part when I talked about the A's 2012 season game 162. But what are some of kind of the biggest challenges that you face as a teacher?
um, Staying them off the technology that you don't want them on at that specific time. It's more and more. I mean, what a rule. You walk in the classroom, you put your phone up. I have a numbered phone chart. They got to put it up in the numbered pocket, right? But they like to go on that phone for different reasons, right? So it's keep them off that, keep them off the video games, and just I mean, that's the stuff that every teacher will tell you. But the more big picture stuff is. I just want kids to open up and be willing to raise their hand and share their contribution, share their verbal contributions. Some kids are great students, they know all the stuff, but they're shy about projecting their own voice and making their voices, their opinions heard. And so that's one thing that's a big, I tell them at the beginning of the year, that's a big thing. This plays into your grade a little bit too. This can help you out a little bit. If you're outspoken, you're willing to share your thoughts and respond to your other classmates' comments. That's a big thing. That's a challenge. It's scary for some kids. That's something I try to break through with them. Um, but if you're just asking one of the biggest challenges, it's yeah, keeping them off the technology sometimes and just trying to make stuff relevant to them. You're always trying to tie it into their world a little bit. Not come across like such an old guy.
I know I got cousins that are on TikTok, and I don't do that, so I'm not. I'm
Right.
not. I
Yeah.
keep it at for social media
Right.
applications. But on the flip side, what do you enjoy most about teaching? Is it just seeing kind of these young men and women mature and eventually graduate and be a part of their kind of their growth experience?
Yeah. The past couple of years, I've taught mainly sophomores, so mainly 10th graders. And this past year, at the end of the year, I had a lot of seniors who I hadn't taught in a couple of years. They came back and just had so many great things to say about having me as a teacher and cool things to share. And that's almost brings me to tears actually when I
Mhm.
hear some of these stories and get that kind of feedback because it makes you know that you're kind of making a positive impact on an individual level with students. I mean, I still remember great teachers that I had back when I was in elementary school, middle school. I can remember some of the things they said and some of like the values they taught, and some of it stuck with me. And I don't know. I'm hoping if I'm just making that kind of impact with just like a small percentage of students, even I feel like it's worthwhile and making an impact. And that's what most rewarding for me is working with young people like this. Like I said, I didn't picture myself going down this path, but I'm really enjoying it. That's the payoff for me is feeling like you're making a good impact and students want to come back and talk to you, you
Yeah,
know,
but
good
there's
stuff.
three rules I remember about Mark Purdy's class, and I'm sure all journalists like yourself, Joe, remember. Use your shoe leather. The biggest tool that you have as a journalist is your brain. And
Yeah.
then what was the other one? Oh, kind of like the 24-hour rule. If somebody does get back to within 24 hours, call them. And I'm like that, so that's why my friends get annoyed at me because I'll text them, and then if I don't get a response,
Yeah.
texting, yeah, I gotta pull the phone like like a manager for a major league team.
Yeah. And do your homework. Do your homework. Do your research before an interview, right? Do your homework.
Absolutely.
Make yourself comfortable with an interview. It's something I always tell them to for sure.
Do you think you'll return to being a beat writer at all, Joe, or do you enjoy teaching?
I enjoy teaching. I still want to keep my hand in it. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go out and cover a Giants game just on a freelance basis for MLB.com, a Giants
Oh,
Angels game later at the end of July. Looking forward to that. So I want to do as much freelance stuff as I can during the summer. Maybe it's just a little bit, but I love just keeping my hand in that a little bit. I also love seeing a lot of my old colleagues that are still doing it out in the press box. It's really cool. It's not something I ever want to lose a connection with, lose a complete connection with. Obviously, I'm not out there doing it on a regular basis, but if I can do it a little bit, still always kind of keep that and keep my foot in it to even just on a small scale, is pretty cool to do. It's still something I still get a kick out of, and it's still rewarding for me, and I'm still inspired to do it.
and I know you answered part of this question, but what advice would you have for your younger self?
Um, Advice for my younger self. Always have confidence in yourself and don't overthink things. Don't overthink things. Just do. Don't think, just do. Just do it.
Love it.
I would do, yeah. Short and sweet right there.
And we just have one social media question, and thank you to my friend Michael Malberg on Instagram. He's a father of two, and he says, "What is the number one thing you see parents lacking to teach or help their kids with?"
One thing I see parents lacking
Yeah,
to help their kids with,
yeah.
it's hard for me to say what I see parents lacking at. I can tell you that for a lot of students, reading comprehension is a tough thing. A lot of times students are just fishing for answers in a reading. They don't enjoy, some of them love reading, some of them don't.
Mhm.
I would say maybe parents just need to push their kids just to read more, to read for fun. It doesn't have to be anything academic. Just read, not on a phone so much. Even buy them something hard copy to read. What I noticed is so many more kids read better, understand better when they're reading a hard copy handout in front of them as opposed to something digital. So buy your kids books or get them into going to the library and get them checking out books and just have them read more, improves their vocabulary. So I mean, that's who am I to sit here and say parents should be doing this more, but
Right.
but I think I would encourage just kids to just read more on their own. That's probably some advice that any teacher from the past several decades would say too, but I think it still holds true.
Now, have you seen an increase in kids submitting answers through Chat GPT or anything like that? Or
Yes. 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 That happens. That happens. I could say it's pretty obvious when it happens too.
Hmm.
It's pretty obvious when it happens. Look, we all need to use ChatGPT and different forms of AI in the right way, right? And maybe it has its place in high school, but it doesn't have its place in answering questions or substituting for your own thoughts and writing your own answers and backing up your own answers and justifying your own answers.
Hmm.
That's still a critical thinking skill that we're always going to need no matter how much AI takes over. So
Mhm.
that's very much a thing. It's very much a challenge, but it's up to us as teachers to challenge them in ways that they can't use AI as a shortcut or to help use AI as a learning tool in school or to make learning easier like that. That's something we're all learning how to do too as teachers, I think. We'll be doing that in the near future even more. Yeah.
And we're almost close to wrapping it up, Joe, but I always got to end with some fun questions. These are all mostly baseball here, but I know you are a Baseball Hall of Fame voter. And one of the most controversial topics of our time that's going to solve world hunger. Does Barry Bonds ever get into the Hall of Fame in our lifetime?
In our lifetime, I think he should. I don't know if he's going to. I'm trying to think how much more longer he's eligible in the Veterans Committee. I can tell you when I have a Hall of Fame vote, I voted for him when he was on the ballot and I had a vote, I voted for him for sure. I voted for him. I voted for Clemens. I know what their name's attached to with the PEDs and everything, but I also know that Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer with or without PED suspicions. Nobody can convince me he's not.
Yeah.
Before any of the PED suspicions um, surfaced with Barry Bonds, he had already put together a Hall of Fame career. Cooperstown is made for the all-time greats. Barry Bonds is an all-time great. Steroids didn't make him an all-time great. If you have an issue with him being the all-time home run king, that's something that kind of I'm not sure how I feel about that. But as far as being a Hall of Famer, um, he's a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, he belongs in Cooperstown, I think, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Greatest player of, I think, probably of our generation, and I know Tony's kind of pushing that of what he's doing
Yeah.
with the Dodgers. What do you think about this year's Hall of Fame class? I know we got Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, who was part of those magical early 2000 Giant teams.
So we got Carlos Beltran.
Yeah,
I voted for Kent. A lot of years I did not vote for. And who's the other name? Already drawn a blank. The other name that you mentioned that's getting in.
Andrew Jones.
Andrew Jones. I did not vote for too. Two tough calls. And I love Jeff Kent growing up as a Bay Area baseball fan. I
Yeah,
saw a lot of his games when the Giants' new stadium opened up. I thought defensively he wasn't the strongest guy at a position that defense is kind of a premium. Um, and with I'm already okay. And Beltran's going in,
hmm
Kent, and then
Andrew Jones.
like Andrew Jones.
Yeah,
I just felt like his look, what a stud he was. How many Gold Gloves he had. The
right.
body work, the dominant body work, was somewhat short lived for me. And I just needed to see like more longevity, more dominance, more excellence over a longer period like that. But at the same time, I can't say I have a huge complaint with either of those guys going in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? They didn't
Yeah,
get my vote, but I'm not like up in arms that they got in at the
right.
same time. Yeah.
I think my only thing with Carlos Beltran is his role kind of in the Astros,
Yeah, totally.
scandal.
That's a real thing.
Yeah. And I know we're probably going to face that when, obviously Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, by
Yeah.
the end of this decade or
Right.
early
Right.
2030s. So
Yeah.
it'll be an interesting debate because I know players had a role in it. Obviously, we don't know
Yeah.
which players did. I
Yeah.
know Alex Cora kind of got scapegoated, AJ Hinch, Jeff Luthau,
Yeah.
who's the GM. So
Yeah.
that'll be
That
an
just
interesting
like a
debate.
Hall of Fame. Yeah, that just like PEDs is it's tricky with this Hall of Fame criteria. There's so much gray area. There's no set. That's why I mean I caught more hell for that on Twitter, on social media than anything else or for my Hall of Fame votes at times because people are passionate about it
Yeah.
and there's no black and white criteria to apply when it comes to PEDs or to banging the trash cans and that kind of stuff. It's hard, man. It's hard. That could be another episode. We do another episode on kids and cell phones in high school classrooms. We do a whole episode on Hall of Fame voting.
Get the
Not
trilogy.
easy to navigate every year. Not easy to navigate. It's an honor to do it.
I know. Yeah.
Not easy to navigate.
Yeah. Do you think anyone will stop the Dodgers from three-peating this year? Do you think any team will?
Um, If you're asking me right now, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. The only crazy thing is the NL West, besides the Dodgers, is so weak right now. They're not
Yeah.
getting pushed at all. And I'm also a believer that teams can peak too early, or you need to be tested at the right time going into the postseason. I think sometimes you got to catch that momentum. Maybe that gets them a little bit, or maybe injuries get them. But I don't know, man. Dodgers, they're so good. They're so strong. Milwaukee's been such a great team for so many years now too. I'd love to see them make a
Yeah.
run. The
Yeah.
Brewers, they've been so good for so long now. Andrew Vaughn's on that team, right? I'd love to see the old Cal Bear
Yeah.
uh, get a shot. But Dodgers are going to be tough, which is probably not what a lot of Bay Area fans want to hear. But I don't know, until somebody knocks them off.
Yeah, I know the Phillies have started to turn around under Don
Yeah,
Mattingly. Who would have thought? And then the American League. I mean, the Yankees. We always hype up these Yankees since the Jeter era. Like, oh, this is the year. And then in October, Aaron Boone forgets how to use the bullpen.
yeah,
I stay away from them. The Rays are looking really good. I know they're leading the AL
yeah,
East.
yeah.
The AL West is a little wide open because nobody wants to win it
I don't know what's
apparently.
going to come of that
Yeah.
division between now and the end of the season. We'll see. We'll see.
And then the Central. I've been to a Cleveland. I actually went to the Guardians ALCS game versus the Yankees 2 years ago. That
Oh wow.
was pure magic because I happened to be there for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony that took
Oh,
place next door. So
very
it just
cool.
happened to be coincidence, and I saw Never seen fans run out because the Yankees, I think, were winning like 6-4. And then as soon as Kenzie Noel hit like that bomb to field, I've never seen fans run all the way back.
Try to run
And
back. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then because we just got there that night, flown in, we ate at like a restaurant down the street. And then our hotel was like beyond right field. So about like probably cross like probably 2 streets down. And the fireworks shot off because that progressive field, they shoot fireworks when the Guardians win and the home run. So 2 seconds before the home runs hit, so I run to the window and then I look, and then it's David Fryer with that electric. I think it was a grand slam or 3-run homer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that rivals Oakland as being one of the loudest places I've been to at
That's a
Progressive.
treat. Get to see postseason baseball somewhere else outside of
I
the Bay
know
Area, right? You get, yeah, that's really cool. Good for you for getting a chance to do that. That's pretty sweet.
for sure. With a looming threat of a lockout taking place next year, do you think baseball will have a salary cap?
I wouldn't mind seeing a salary cap. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. The baseball players union is so strong. I don't know. I don't know. So that's why I think we're going to see a work stoppage of some time possibly, which no, that's not breaking news there, right? I think it could happen, but I just don't know if I see the players agreeing to it. I can't pretend to know all the specifics about everything about that topic right now,
Right.
but and the owners are proposing a lot of different changes, right? I mean, like the draft system, who's eligible for the draft, a lot of radical changes that I think some of it could be good for the game. I wouldn't mind seeing a salary cap. I just don't know how much the players are going to budge and what kind of compromise they're going to go to. So I don't know. If I had to say yes or no now, I'm going to say I don't know if we'll see a salary cap. So I don't know what the compromise is going to be, though.
I would love to see the A's spend money.
Yeah, right.
Since they
Yeah.
have they like to
Well,
extend
wait a minute.
contracts.
They've left Oakland now. They're starting to sign players. They're
I
extending
know,
player
yeah,
contracts, right?
yeah.
Oh man.
And this leads into my next question. And I know they just lost to Detroit. And I call them the Timu A's because they play in a minor league ballpark. You can't be a major league team and be in a minor league ballpark, so that's why I call them Timu. No disrespect against the great city of Sacramento, but do you think the Timu A's have a legitimate chance of being a contender this year or the next? Or
I think they've taken steps forward, especially on the position player side. I just think they've got so much ground to make up right now. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really tough this year. Too much ground to make up, I think. Now the division's more wide open than you normally see it,
right?
but I don't know if I see them putting together consistency to be able to make a run. Then again, I probably would have said it this time last for the 2012 team too, so you never know.
Yeah,
But I just don't know if I've seen enough to think they're going to be able to make up the ground they need to make up to get now. Now the AL is not as strong as the NL though, right? So
mhm.
so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Right. With trade deadline, we'll see what the roster looks like after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's going to be an uphill battle right now, though.
I would have thought the White Sox are contention, but they still are, which is insane.
That is pretty
That's where they
crazy,
fall.
actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think the A's just have like a pitching development problem? Because I know they have the position players, Nick Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, obviously the other Max Muncy, Lawrence Butler, Tyler Solstrom. Do you think it's just more on like who they draft in the from like a front office standpoint, or obviously the ballpark doesn't help either that they're playing in?
That's a big thing. The ballpark's not helping now with the current crop up there, right? It's
Right.
I don't know, baseball, maybe it's cyclical. I feel like when I was covering the team, they were maybe they're developing pitchers and the on the hitting side things weren't coming along really through the system. So it's hard for me to say, but it's such a crapshoot. Every year you're drafting so many players and they enter the minors, and there's so much that can happen between the time you draft the guy you think you're drafting and the time they're ready or they're not ready to be in the big leagues.
Right.
Uh, and with the injuries and stuff and with pitchers, it's tough. I don't have an answer for you as far as why things aren't coming together right now on the pitching side.
Yeah.
Um, but here's hoping they can do it, right?
Or
And
just
here's
move
hoping they
back,
can do it and have some momentum going into that Las Vegas stadium too when they
yeah,
eventually get there.
or just move back to Oakland and just give it up.
A lot of people would like that too. A lot of people would like that too.
Now, the other
But
team in the Bay,
that'd be cool.
the San Francisco Giants, have had a, roller coaster season, to say the least. Plethora of problems on and off the field that
Yeah.
we've seen over the past couple months. But what do you think is kind of what is the one main issue that's preventing them from being a contender?
Well, the easy answer is the bullpen, right? The bullpen doesn't have it together. I don't know from what I can see, that team just doesn't. they can't put all the phases of the game together at the same time. There's a lot of, I mean, early in the season, there were like base running breakdowns, or there's, the bullpen gives up a lead. And then when the pitching's there, the hitters aren't getting it done. It's just, you can point to every part of the team and it feels like it's breaking down at some point or another. Just hasn't allowed them to get any momentum going whatsoever. So it's just, and you're right, it has been on and off the field. And it's just, I don't know what the answer is for the Giants right now. I don't know what the
Yeah.
answer is right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got a rookie manager who's trying to grow into the job as well. I mean, holy
Right.
cow, with the baptism by fire, he's getting a lot of stuff he couldn't have anticipated. So we'll see. Certainly can't blame all of this just on him, that's for sure. So yeah, it's a crazy time for Bay Area sports right now. Not feels like not a ton of optimism right now for Bay Area sports teams, right?
I think only the Sharks. That's about it. They got
The
mad.
Sharks, yeah, the Sharks
Yeah.
keep getting those good draft picks, man. Whatever mojo they got going right now is pretty good with getting that young talent. They're a
Yeah.
team that's fun to watch right now. Fun to think about what they could become, maybe, right?
I know. Yeah. All
For
the,
sure.
three first rounders through this year, which is insane. That
Yeah,
rarely happens.
yeah.
And another follow up to the Giants. You think Buster Posey will step down after this year, or do you think he kind of tries to ride it out?
I think he tries to write it out a little bit more. I think he just takes a little more time. I think he'll take a little more time. That's just my absolutely no background knowledge. I'm not doing it
Yeah.
anymore, but
Yeah.
um, I think he's enough of a competitor. He'll want to try to turn this around
Yeah.
and not end on this kind of a note.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much you've been following the World Cup, but who's gonna win the World Cup?
Oh, my teams are out. The U.S. is out. I got a little bit of Portuguese and Croatian blood in me, and they're both out now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I would love to see England's still in it now, right? England's still in
I
it. They
think they're
haven't played
still in
their
it.
yeah. So I'd love to see. I think it'd be really cool if they made a run. When's the last time they won it? It's like some crazy stat. I think they've only won it.
1966.
Yeah,
60 years.
yeah. But is anybody going to knock off Argentina? I don't know. I mean, that last game was incredible for them. It's
Yeah.
just like they got the, um, you know, Messi and everything doing his thing. I don't know if anybody's gonna be able to knock them off, but I don't know. It's been amazing to watch. I can't say I've watched every single minute of every single game,
Mhm.
but the storylines are incredible. I was so bummed when the U.S. bowed out the other night, but that game was over before it started.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
And France is a juggernaut too, with
Yeah,
Mbappe. They got a lot of
yeah,
guys over there.
right.
Um, Go Norway, since my guy Erling Haaland from Man City plays on there. So go Norway.
Oh, there
That's
you
the
go. All right, all
remaining
right.
last remaining team. And
Yeah.
Joe, I end every interview with this question: what should the audience learn from your story today?
What should the audience learn from my story today? That you never know which career turn you'll get, which path your career will take, and keep your um, it pays off to keep your mind open to outside the box opportunities because you never know what's gonna be up next for you, for sure. So um, uh, I got a second career of teaching that I'm really enjoying right now, and like I said, I never saw myself going this career path, but yeah, just be open to the outside the box ideas and learn as much as you can from the people around you. Always be willing to learn no matter what. Never stop learning from the people around you, I would say.
Well, Joe, I just want to say thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it. I consider you a mentor in this industry, and you've helped me out along the way. I'm always checking in. I know you helped me out in the job search as well, before I got my current job. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot that I got to read you as a kid, and I saw you on TV, and now I can call you a mentor and a friend. So I appreciate it.
Derek, thanks so much, buddy. I feel the same about you. Thanks so much for having me on and showing interest in talking about all this stuff and best of luck, man, with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, huh?
And where can the people follow you on social media?
Oh, I haven't been on X. I haven't been sounding off on Twitter/X a whole lot. You can find me at Joe_Stiglich, Joe_STIGLICH. And now that I put that out there, I guess I gotta start posting a little bit more, right?
Yeah, the A's fans are going to come back. The Oakland A's fans are going to come back and share some stories. But Joe, thank you again. We'll be right back on the Chronicles for the Upper Deck podcast.
Present Forbidden Door.
my thanks goes out to Joe Stiglich for being on the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. And Joe, thank you, thank you, thank you for just making a difference in my life. I really appreciate it. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe_Stiglich. He's also on LinkedIn as well and on Instagram as well. And also, probably one of the best teachers in the Bay Area. So shout out to you kids at Clayton Valley Charter High School. You guys got a lucky teacher and a baseball historian. That's how you might get extra credit too, is talking baseball with him. Okay, so a little secret of the pros there. But thanks, Joe. As far as upcoming episodes for the Chronicles of the Upper Deck podcast, most likely it won't take place until the end of the month, maybe early August. We'll have to navigate my schedule. Got a couple big events. We got the Cal Women's Amateur in golf that I will be at in Davis, California in a few weeks, and also the Pat Coast Dam, which I will be at. So I'll be in between Davis and Livermore in the next few weeks. Next week, we got the Open Championship returning to Royal Birkdale. That means your favorite show, Birdies and Banter, returns. So Patrick and I will be doing a preview and also a post tournament recap. It's our final show of the year, which is crazy that we're in July. And Patrick's back from Japan, so I'm sure he wants to share some of his stories from traveling to Japan with his wife and a few of his friends, including his co-host Noah from the MPP podcast. So it should be a fun time. Again, you can catch that next week. It will be on his YouTube page at the MPP Live and also on my YouTube page and of course wherever you get your podcasts. So I'm looking forward to that. And I like how Patrick comes back, the U.S. loses, so maybe he had to stay in Japan, but we needed him back here anyway to do the show. But thank you, my friends, for watching this chapter 53. I really appreciate it. Please continue to spread the love. Please continue to be kind to one another. And yeah, continue to spread the love. All right. You can now leave this audio and visual wonderland of mine known as the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. Take care. Peace and love, folks.